everyone. We are here for our second ever Q&A stream. We did one last summer, and this will be the second one to date. And so we've got a good list of questions here we're going to talk about. Some of these have some pretty long answers, so I put those ones with long answers first. I put the ones with shorter answers last. Now, this will be not too long of a stream. I will have stuff to talk about later on, not involving the Q&A stream, but just like my next two live streams I have coming up here this week on Thursday and Friday, and what's going to happen with those. So, anyways, we are going to go ahead and get started with our first question. Now, our first question is, how has the rise of private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin changed the landscape of space exploration compared to traditional government agencies like NASA and Roscosmos? Now, my answer for this question here is this one is one of the shorter answered one, but basically the rise of those companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin, they changed space exploration for those government-funded companies as it allows for essentially for more commercial travel. So if you're just a normal person doing like working as a teacher or something, you can go, you can pay money to fly, and that's commercial and public, and they also provide the cheaper services and more reliable space flights. And so that's our answer for our first question there. Now, question number two is, what are the technical and logistical challenges of creating reusable rockets? And how close are we to making spaceflight truly routine and affordable? Now, if you don't already know, companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are working towards that reusability and making it truly routine and affordable. Now, here's the complicated part of this. So it involves a lot of technical challenges, such as you have to build engines, you have to build the materials and it has to be able to withstand lots of launches, lots of reentries, and lots of landings. And you have to develop very precise landing systems, like a Falcon 9 lands every time. There are only ever those few times where it will land and then later on explode or fall, tip over, something due to maybe a landing leg issue or a fire, but something like that. And also, you have to be able to refurbish quickly. Like, if you're going to, you need to have a fleet of vehicles, obviously, so you can launch it between refurbishment periods. But you need to be able to refurbish all of those vehicles quickly. Actually, I just realized, can y'all even hear me? Hopefully, y'all can hear me. I think y'all can hear me. Yep, y'all can. Just making sure there, because it said I was muted, but I'm not. Okay. Anyways, companies such as, like I mentioned, SpaceX and Origin have been really working toward this with their Falcon 9 boosters, New Shepard boosters, and New Glenn also working over on their New Glenn boosters, which the one time that they have launched, they did fail that landing, but that's a part of becoming reusable and everything like that. Now, let's go to our third question. Our third question is, with the Artemis program aiming to return humans to the moon, what are the key goals for lunar exploration in the 2030s, and how do they support future Mars missions? So the Artemis program, it has many key goals for this lunar exploration. We originally thought, I mean, for 2030s, I think we're scheduled to land on the moon in 2027, but that keeps getting delayed with budget cuts and construction issues and stuff like that. But if we're talking about 2030s, the goal is to establish, and this is with Starship and SpaceX's help, but the goal is to establish a sustainable lunar colony so you can always have humans on the moon, essentially. Now, this also includes building the Lunar Gateway space station. This involves help from SpaceX with the Starship vehicle, as well as Artemis, um, and developing technology for long-term missions. We have to be able to support those long-term missions, as it takes roughly, a few weeks, 2 weeks to get to the moon. So it's not like the space station where you can launch and cargo is there the next day. No, you have to be able to have technology that lasts for a while, cargo that lasts for a while. You have to have enough of that. Um, and all of this, it aims to test life on the moon, life on other planets, and that all paves the way to supporting life on Mars as well. Later, we're supposed to send Tesla Optimus to the moon next, or not to the moon, but to Mars next year. So that will also help with that over there. All right, let's go to our fourth question. Question 4. What role do satellite mega constellations like Starlink play in global internet coverage, and what are the concerns surrounding space debris and orbital crowding? Crowding, yeah. So, constellations such as Starlink and the newly founded Kuiper constellation that is currently being built up, they play a major role. Like I'm sure you've seen commercials with T-Mobile and Starlink. They're working together, really expanding that internet coverage all over the globe. And Starlink, and T-Mobile, they're really helping out. And I guess you could say Kuiper itself. They're all helping out to expand internet coverage in those what's the word I'm looking for? In remote areas, essentially. Now, however, with SpaceX launches a Starlink mission, I would say about once a day, sometimes twice a day, and every other day, something like that. But essentially, it raises concerns about space debris over in the future. So, thousands of satellites, those thousands of satellites, they do increase the risk of collisions. They do create challenges for space traffic carrying, humans and all of that. But whenever you think about it, with the size of Earth and compared to the amount of satellites that we have in orbit, it's not too much of a concern right now. Now, it could definitely become a concern, but as of right now, it is not a concern. So let's move to our next question. Question number 5. How do different nations and companies approach planetary defense against asteroids? And are we prepared for a potential impact event? Now, this question brings us back to the beginning of the year, and in December, whenever there was an asteroid 2024 YR4 was discovered, and it had a very high chance, a very high chance of impacting Earth. Now, this asteroid had a Torino scale of 3, meaning it would cause, I think it is localized destruction um, for the area that it would impact. So it would hit the ground. However, chances of the impact of that asteroid have since gone down drastically to like 0.000001% of a chance of impact. But the chances of impact on the moon has increased since then. But nations and all those the nation's government-funded agencies like NASA, JAXA, Roscosmos, all those companies, they're developing ways to deflect this asteroid, like such as NASA. They're really a top leader here in this mission. So they did the DART mission back in September of 2022. So that was a double asteroid redirection test, and this showed that a kinetic impactor, so not like explosive, nothing like that, but something that just used its pure speed, could easily deflect the asteroid's trajectory. ESA is also working on similar things, such as the Hera mission. Hera recently launched not too long ago, and is studying the impacts of DART. Now, uh, companies like SpaceX, they could use even starships to deflect asteroids too. I mean, that'd be a little explosive, I'd feel like, but it in theory would work. So let's move on to the next question here. So these are going to be some of these shorter answer questions. So this is talking about Starship. Which ship will be the first to be caught? Now, this I had written down on my answer sheet here. I said S39 or S40, but most likely S40. Now, reason why I say this is I was leaning towards maybe a catch of a Block 2 ship, such as the last one, S38. But if you saw my video or if you saw in the news after what happened with S36 and just overall what's been happening with the Block 2 flights, it's not looking very good. But I'm still kind of going with that S-39, which is will be the first Block 3 ship, and S-40. But I still think maybe even S-41. I'd say at this point S-40 or S-41, which all three of those ships are currently in production. And this actually brings me to a talking point here that is not a part of this Q&A, but we recently found out, and I was checking the Starbase tracking website, and I saw there's a ship transport stand on an SPMT at the launch site. There's no ship at the launch site. So SpaceX has decided that with Massey's being out of commission, they can't static fire there. So this is crazy. NASA Spaceflight has made videos and blogs about this, but they essentially have two options to do, and they are going to static fire the ships on the launch pad. Yeah, so they're gonna either put the transport stand, weld it with I-beams or something into the OLM, which we think that's the least likely option to do. They'll static fire like that, or they'll install clamp adapters, which would be more likely, and they would that's how it would hold the ship. But then they would also have to install a special temporary SQD in order to get electrical and propellant to Starship. So what we think could happen is they could get S-37 up there, static fire. They could then get I'm thinking about this. They static fired B-16. They launch S-37 B-16 as a pair, and then actually, no, they would probably static fire S-37 and S-38 back to back, would be my guess, and do a cryo test at Launchpad. That's probably what I would think would happen. But, anyways, that's off topic. So let's move on to question number 7. Okay, question 7. What are your opinions on the Starship's ninth test flight launch, and what could have been done to help slash fix some issues with the flight? Now, the ninth flight of Starship, truly was a great flight. I mean, seeing S-35 make it past Seco and being the first Block 2 ship to do so. But if we could fix those issues that occurred, I feel like maybe taking even a little bit longer time and just checking over everything. I mean, everything, especially the COPV valves and stuff like that. Um, a whole lot more times than they already do. But it's really hard to predict what might go wrong on a flight. So, I mean, essentially, in my opinion, there's not really anything in production, at least, that could have been done to help or fix those issues, since it's really hard to tell, what could go wrong or if anything will go wrong in a flight at all. Anyways, let's move on to question number 8, our second to last question. What are my thoughts on the 3 grid fin booster? So, if you don't know, SpaceX announced that for I think the Block 3 booster, it might be B-18 actually, which is currently receiving its rings. So it's currently under construction in Mega Bay 1. Um, Honestly, the look of it, it's terrible. It's not because it's not symmetrical 3 grid fins or anything. It's not like a triangle. So you got a grid fin. I think it's a grid fin here, grid fin here, grid fin here, meaning you've just got like a blank fourth of the booster. Now, however, aerodynamically, it would be better, but I just overall don't like the look of it. And finally, let's move on to our last question. So our last question is, how many times will they use the Blue Origin capsule to take people on a 10-minute flight? So if you don't know, Blue Origin, they fly people, if you pay money, on 10-minute flights. And there was just one yesterday at around 9:30 a.m. after it did it's crazy. I was watching it, it's crazy. They did a hold at T minus 50. They continue terminal count till T minus 20. They went on hold, off hold, on hold, off hold, on hold, off hold. It went off for a long time. But eventually they launched 6 people to above the Kármán line. And the but this brings me back to the question. The most we've ever seen Blue Origin fly one of their capsules was the RSS Enterprise? That's even one? I don't know. I didn't look at the name of it. But that one has flown 13 times. Now, I feel like they could definitely fly those a whole lot more. Do I think they will? Yeah, I think they will. They definitely will. But that's all the questions I have here. So we're gonna move on to stuff that does not relate with the Q&A. So let me switch here. Okay, perfect. So this is a busy week. I've got 3 live streams this week. This is the first one. I will have one on Thursday and one on 4th of July on Friday. And so we're actually going to talk about those, and I'll provide a quick little insight as what we will be seeing for both of those streams coming up. So the stream I have on Thursday, this will be July 3rd at 2:15 p.m. And you can go see that in the description. It's got the times and names of everything, and it's already all scheduled and stuff like that. This will be on July 3rd. It's called the July 4th or July 4th Rocket Spectacular Mission Review. This will be streaming at 2:15 p.m. and that is Central Time, so 14:15, and we will be basically talking about what's going to be happening Friday morning on July 4th. And so, if you don't know, we will be doing a July 4th spectacular. Last year for our July 4th spectacular, we did a video that just did it was a live stream, but I had edited a video for it. There's just all sorts of like there goes my mouse. There's all sorts of like my rocket launches and all of that stuff. But I really think that this will be a great 4th of July live stream. Why do I think this? Well, the reason why is we are launching a homemade rocket. This is my second 3D printed rocket that I will be launching. If you don't remember, Quantum Voyager 1, whenever we launched it back, it might have been last year around this time of year, we had it, there was an air tag in it just in case it went a little far. But this was a very lightweight rocket, center of mass is perfect, everything like that. It arched like we had a launch. It went maybe 100 feet in the air and then arched back down, crashed right into the ground. And I've talked about that a whole lot recently. But the whole purpose that I am mentioning this is because we did a whole big redesign. So let me see if I can grab it here. So the rocket that the first 3D printed rocket was a thick rocket. It was about, you could probably fit 3 engines in this core stage. Um, so this is the redesign. As you can see, it is thin. It's thinner than Estes rockets. So, but I mean, it's good. It's really good. Um, it was. So we were going to launch it not too long ago, back in December, I believe. Yes, I believe so. And we realized that we were encountering center of mass issues, so we scrubbed the launch of this. Now, as you can see, there is no nose cone on this. I'm sure if you saw the video that had the great cinematic shots of this, it had a nose cone on it. That was just a temporary nose cone. As of right now, the nose cone is out on my 3D printer printing, and that will be done here in about 2 hours, and I will get that spray painted orange, just like this. And then I might put decals on this rocket, just because I don't want it to just be orange like this. But anyways, that nose cone, it's a whole lot heavier. So right now the center of mass, it's about right here. That's too low. We want the center of mass to be about right here. Now, if you don't know, the center of mass needs to be ahead of the center of pressure. I can't tell you what the center of pressure is because I did not look at that. But basically, the center of mass is going to be where does the rocket balance? And so this is where it balances. But if I go here, this is not where it balances. So in other words, I'm printing a heavy nose cone, and um, I'm printing like a weight to also add weight to the top of it. And then I have completely redesigned the detachment system for parachute deployment. But we'll be launching this rocket hopefully on July 4th, on Friday. So that will be very fun. And I have come to the conclusion, I did some testing, and I will be live streaming that launch. I figured out how to live stream the launch and everything like that. So now I am going to show this on Thursday and all of that stuff too. But I want to go ahead and show y'all what launch day might look like. Now I do not have the Estes Orbitron with me at the moment, but I do have over here my launch controller. This is I probably need the launch key. Yes, you heard me right. It has a launch key. So we're gonna set this right here in my chair. So this is a brand new launch controller. It's the Estes Pro Series 2. So I'll go ahead and do a quick demo of how it works. So we're just gonna connect these red and black wires together. Oh, there goes the launch key. We're essentially going to these will go on the starter, not together though. So we'll hook it up like that, and then here it comes with a handy dandy little launch key for safety and all of that. But it's got four pot spots where you can hook up to motors, and that means you can launch with multiple motors. You can launch with up to 4 engines in one rocket. That's insane. So basically, what will happen on launch day? So let's see if I can clip this to my shirt. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna show this to y'all. So we are clipped here with these clips, red and black. We will then insert the launch key and twist it. So now you see that this red light is on. Once this red light is on, I know that we are active. So this yellow button right here, I will hold this down and there will be a buzz. And then once I click this red button, it ignites the engine and we launch. So it's a loud tone essentially. So this will provide for anyone in the area to run out of there. They gotta run. So this is what it will sound like. It's pretty loud. And so this will happen at 2 seconds to launch. So we'll kind of go like this. T minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we'll launch. We'll click that red button, tone stops, rocket goes straight up into the air. Then once I'm done, take the launch key out, and I mean there we go. It's really that simple. I mean, I really like this launch controller. It's very cool. Now we'll be doing that with both rockets. So the Estes Orbitron and the Quantum Voyager 2. Now, with the Estes Orbitron, it has a payload bay. Now, the last time I launched a payload was in January, or not January, December. So I launched an egg and it landed safely, not even cracking. So I thought that was really cool. So we won't be doing that this time, but the Estes Orbitron, this time will be carrying it will be carrying an air tag. That way I can really, so we can track it, you know? So this altimeter costs some 30 bucks, and actually I think it's 40. It's expensive for a very tiny thing. But really we want to be able to find it, and we want to be able to get the data of how far or how high up that rocket goes. Estes claims that the rocket will go up 975 feet, I believe. So this altimeter here, Estes altimeter, will help me decide or it won't help me decide. It'll show me where it's going to go. So just a few clicks of these buttons over here, and I mean, there we go. It will track altitude. Now, let's talk about the engine that the Estes Orbitron runs on. So the Estes Orbitron is a bigger rocket. It's a beginner rocket, though. It took me about 15 minutes to assemble, and it is launching on this motor. Now, this motor is a, let's see, D12. I can't, no, I don't know if you see that. This is a D12.5 motor. Now, you can launch with an Estes D12.7 or an Estes D12.5 or any C11 engine for the Estes Orbitron rocket. However, we are launching with the D12.5. This should get the altitude roughly the same, maybe a little lower. But like I said, we'll be able to tell with my altimeter over here. So I'll go ahead and show y'all too for Quantum Voyager. Here's my parachute. It's all folded up because it's kind of already tangled. I gotta these strings are these strings are really thin, so I gotta untangle those. But uh, this will go inside of the weight section of the rocket that's on the printer right now, and that will really it helps if it deploys. I hope it deploys. If it doesn't deploy, we're gonna have like a 20-foot crater in the ground or something. Hopefully not. But we'll talk about the nose cone redesign too. So here's the old nose cone. It's broken. It had a little straight part at the bottom. But here's that old nose cone right here. And so this is it's probably about 5 inches tall. I'm currently printing one that is 7.25 inches tall, I believe, and that's that tall. And then I think a 5 inch tall weight, and then the new deployment system. So it is the rocket itself, I believe, is about if my measurements are correct. I hope they are. If they're not, all that filament down there that I'm printing, that's been taking 5 hours to print. Yeah, I don't think you can exactly just melt it back down and mold it or whatever. But anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, the deployment method. So it's a tube that's about point I think it's 0.65 inches uh of the size. So it's like 5/8 points. It's like 0.65 inches and in diameter. It's got a hole that runs up the middle so we can have room for the shot cord and everything. And that will essentially just go inside this hole of the nose cone here. Now this is the old one, but the new one does have that same design. But this it should just slide right in there. But this being about 0.86, it should slide in there. Um, and I do want it to be not loose, but it does need to be somewhat tight to where you can't easily pull it off, but you can still pull it off. But the ejection charge, I'm not sure about how much pressure that puts on it, but I'm gonna make it loose enough to where it will hopefully deploy. And so then that will also slide into the fuselage or core stage right here. That will slide into there as well. And it will be tighter here. That way the nose cone pops off essentially. Anyways, I think that's about it for today. I don't think there's anything else I need to cover other than remember, I've got those live streams. Those are coming up here on Thursday, July 3rd at 2:15 p.m. Central Time. And I never mentioned the second live stream. The second live stream, July 4th, 9:30 a.m. Central Time. It's an early one, but as of right now, we are go for launch with weather and everything. 9:30 a.m. Central Time is when that stream will start. We'll launch probably about 10 minutes later. I would say 10 minutes later-ish, around 9:40-ish. Um, and that one is titled July 4th Rocket Spectacular. So you'll have to go check that one out on Friday, July 4th. And I'll go ahead and say this early, but happy July 4th. Thank you for watching. I'll